Hello, Acolytes! Welcome to the Cleric Corner. My name is Riker, and here we talk about all things Dungeons and Dragons, tapping into our higher powers to create worlds more unique and stories more impactful. This morning is a busy day for me. I have this live stream, as well as a full-on one-shot that I get to do with Hidden Nerdy Side, as well as Dungeon Dad, and oh shoot, what's his podcast called? There's another podcast. He's gonna kill me. But it's a podcast by Orange, or it's not. You know what? I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna put it up. Anyways, I have a big one shot, a modern day one shot that is right after this. So check that out if you want. But today we're gonna go into Blood Hunter. We're gonna stay on topic today because the Blood Hunter is a very polarizing class. At least from what I've seen. It is a class that, it looks like I'm kind of like really in and out. I'm shaky, aren't I? Am I pretty shaky? Maybe I can lower the bit rate. Hold up. Give me 1 second. We'll try that. Does that help a little bit? Is that better? Let me know if that's better. Here we have Pedro in the chat, as well as Nicolay. And Azure came in with a yo. Awesome. I think that helped a little bit. Here I am still connected with the internet, like directly, and I'm still having issues with this kind of stuff. It's not fun. If everything can work perfectly, that would be great. But anyways, we're doing some like experimenting again. It's always a process, guys. It's always a process. But I'm grateful for you being here. Grateful to for your understanding in technology and me. Should write a book, Technology and Me. It's a horror story. Nicolay, call me Gabriel. I will try. As soon as we get off of this, I'll probably forget because the name that appear is Nicolay. So it's hard to remember things like that. But I'll try to remember. Okay. So today, before we get into it, I want to give a huge shout out to my Patreon members. On our Cleric tier, we have Scott Burns, and then Acolytes, our Kaleidoscope and Weaver Atribos. Thank you guys so much. I want to give you guys even more. I really do. And as a content creator and wanting to just continue to give back and thank you guys for my support, or for your support in me, I'm working on a few things. It might still be a month or two out. But I'm working on a few things to really improve what this channel means and what it gives to gives to my supporters in what I think has not really been done before. So we'll see how that comes out. But again, thank you. So going into the Blood Hunter, we're gonna again start with the tier list. So just a reminder for everyone who's popping in and hasn't been here before, this is the tier list that we're going to judge today's class, with S tier being the best, meaning features are in complete synergy with the class narrative. Narrative meaning that what you see is what you get. If you're playing the class, the features feel like you're playing the class. So it's a key class for reflavoring, including multiple avenues for customization. Or is it the worst with D? Features seldom work with narrative of the class. They are limiting and leaves little room for reflavoring. That's the worst, right? It means there's no possible way we can do any reflavoring, or the narrative just does, it sucks. I don't think that we're going to have that today, and I don't think that we've had that yet. So, but it'd be interesting. Things we'll be looking for is, do the mechanics work with the narrative? Can you separate mechanics from the narrative? Can you easily make changes to the mechanics? Are the abilities unique to the class? How different would two characters of the same subclass be? And does the class give further options for customization? Right? Pretty cool. Boer, hello. Welcome. As everybody's filtering in, I got a new bot as well for Discord, and I don't know if it's gone through. Actually, let me check. It should like update everyone once it goes live, and I don't think that it did that. So that's okay. Maybe there's another way that it can go around it. Again, bugs, YouTube, computer, internet should make things easier, right? Okay, well, let's get into it, shall we? Here we're gonna have the Blood Hunter. Oh, and I'm skipping out again. Is that? Are you guys? Is it okay on your guys' end, or is it just me that it's skipping me? Or are you guys good? Please let me know. Otherwise, I need to change some things. Okay. Here we have the Blood Hunter. There's a couple things. Far from judging eyes of society, blood hunters have mastered the secret techniques of hemocraft, finding blood magic's esoteric nature effective against evils that resist divine rebuke. Wait, that resist divine... Is that a typo? Against evils that resist divine rebuke or arcane bindings. There we go. Through careful study and practice, blood hunters hone the rights of hemocraft into unique combat techniques, forfeiting a portion of their own health to call curses upon their enemies or summon the elements to aid their strikes. Willing to suffer whatever it takes to achieve victory, these adept warriors have forged themselves into a potent force dedicated to protecting the innocent. Now, it's really, really cool because this right here is a ode to blood magic, something that we have not seen in D&D thus far. So it does open up an entirely new aspect of Dungeons & Dragons when it comes to blood magic or hemocraft, or hemomancy is another word for it. We don't have a full caster blood magic, like a full blood magic caster, which would in its own right would be really, really cool. But we do have this kind of blood hunter half caster-esque, and we'll kind of get into that. Now, if you're familiar with Matthew Mercer and Critical Role, the creator of the Blood Hunter, you would also know that he has created other subclasses, not officially, that do delve more into blood magic, like a blood wizard or a blood cleric. And that's in his most recent Tal'Dorei Reborn book, which I have somewhere back there. But in that, it has a fleshed out subclasses for full spellcasters, where it's more blood-themed magic. But not officially, unfortunately, because blood magic is so cool, and you'll come to find. So this is one of my favorite classes, really just because it is blood magic, and I just think blood magic is really, really cool. And again, whenever there is a trope that's introduced that we have not seen before, explained mechanically, I think is really, really solid. So going into this, I will have a bias. Just warning you now. So, monsters to fight monsters. This is kind of the roleplay aspect of it. Whether driven by the wish to make a difference, to the need to take a vengeance, or the hope of finding a place to belong in the uncaring world, every blood hunter has their own reasons for undertaking a ritual of the blood or the hunter's bane that starts them on this path, right? So they are a blood hunter through a ritual. In joining an order of blood hunters, one also joins a family bound by service to each other and a common cause. For this, this might be the only family they have left or have ever known, making the kinship felt between blood brothers, no pun intended, or intended, I'm not sure, I can't read their mind, but all but unbreakable bond. Outside of the camaraderie of their orders, however, the life of blood hunter is not an easy one. The ritual of a hunter's bane can leave a character visibly changed and prone to unsettling the people around them. Likewise, witnessing hemocraft can invoke superstitious fears from even the most learned scholars. While some cultures have come to accept the good deeds of blood hunter orders, many blood hunters hide their calling unless absolutely necessary. They feel more comfortable in the winds or the wilds and the wastes of the world, or drift through the outskirts of society, protecting the poor and defenseless from dark intention and the corrupting touch of fiends. In choosing a path, every blood hunter irrevocably gives a part of themselves to their cause, physically, emotionally, and sometimes morally. Each order of blood hunter practices in its own ideals and methods, often employing techniques with dark origins that test the strength and will of those who employ them. Many wrestle with the fear of losing this struggle, and so a life of discipline and vigilance drives the blood hunter's travel as they wander the countryside in search of like-minded adventurers and whispers of dark deeds afoot. Okay, sorry, that was a lot. But that, to me, is very much what the Ludo narrative of a blood hunter is, right? They are monster hunters. They are magical monster hunters or blood magic hunters that uses blood magic to fight monster with monster, almost becoming a monster to fight monsters. You gotta be one to know one kind of thing, right? And because of that, it leaves a mark on them, or a darkness, or a misery, or a haunt to them as they undertake this calling. It's a dark path, but to them, it's worth it, right? So and some of the inspiration from, I should say, some of the inspiration for the Blood Hunter is the Last Witch Hunter, which, oh shoot, what's his name? The guy in the pacifier. Oh, I'm mad at myself that I can't remember his name. The actor. Who is it? You guys know. If you know, say in the chat. Goodness gracious. But he was in the Last Witch Hunter, and they did a one-shot together. He and Matthew Mercer and the Critical Role. And they did like a one-shot where I think he either requested or the people involved wanted a specific subclass or class for the character that he was playing in The Last Witch Hunter, because it was promotional for that video, right? It was promotional for that movie. And so Matthew Mercer made this for him. And it was just a bunch of mechanics. It wasn't a fleshed out class, it wasn't a subclass, it was a bunch of just fleshed out mechanics that he used for at that time. But everyone loved it so much, they're like, thank you, Vin Diesel. Thank you. Gosh dang it. Vin Diesel. Everyone loved Vin Diesel's character so much, and they loved the way that it played, and they're like, oh my gosh, I need this, that the request was so much that Matthew Mercer was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll just do a class about it. And so he made it. So it says turn on notifications for this, and I never do that. I love Blood Hunter. Me too. This is going to be great to get some new ideas for Blood Hunter that doesn't have to do with cutting and self-harm. Well, you can talk about that. We can talk about that. You look pale, like you've donated too much blood. Or maybe I've taken up a Blood Hunter order. You don't know. You don't know. Pedro, a Blood Hunter that has collected a bunch, has a collection of blood from other creatures that uses it as drugs to increase its might or inflict pains that but wary be those that devour that which is not meant for man. Yeah. Another inspiration that this one took from was The Witcher. And a specific subclass, specifically, The Witcher is a lot of inspiration. You can tell that there's a lot of inspiration from Witcher, and it only added to the popularity of the class. Now, there are a lot of people who don't like the class, and that's totally fine, right? It's not official class. It's not a part of like Dungeons & Dragons officially. It's only official as far as Critical Role's partnership with D&D Beyond. Now, that D&D Beyond partnership extends into D&D or Wizards of the Coast now that D&D has bought D&D Beyond. So I don't know how that's all going to work. But for now, we still have it and we can still enjoy it online. Okay. So going into this, there are a couple things that I want to talk about. The first thing that I want to talk about is this really, really cool mechanic that they introduced later that I think should be a part of every single spellcasting class. Okay? It says Variant Hemocraft Ability Score. All right. As a Blood Hunter, you can use your Intelligence modifier for some of your class and subclass features. However, with your DM's permission, you can instead choose your Wisdom modifier as for all your Blood Hunter features that use your Intelligence modifier by default. That's awesome, right? Like, here's my thing. At my table, I actually saw the Dungeon Coach make a short about this on TikTok like a week ago. But he and I have very similar mindsets when it comes to D&D. But I liked it because he put into words what I do as well, is when you come to me with a spellcaster, or really any class, but let's say a spellcaster, when you come to me with a spellcaster, most of the time I'm like, you have the option. If you don't want to use a certain spellcasting modifier, say if you came to me and said a wizard, you don't have to do the Intelligence modifier, right? I'm all for reflavor. I'm all for different things. If you want to give me a wizard that has the wisdom modifier as a spellcasting system, right? Maybe you're more of a philosophical wizard, right? Not a religious one, more of a philosophical one, where a lot of your studies are in theories and what's the word? Conspiracies, things like that. And so using wisdom is in place for that, or a charisma. Maybe you are a professor instead of a student, and so a lot of what you do is teach instead of study. And so there's a little bit. So anyways, that's just bottom line, right? Maybe you can use a different modifier than what you usually do, and I'm totally okay with that. After that, I also am open to different spell lists, right? If you want to say, I want to play a wizard, but I want a more nature wizard. He studies more of nature. He's in the classroom, but he studies nature and animals and things like that, and he's like a transmuter. I want druid spells instead of the wizard spell list. And I'd be like, absolutely, that's so cool, right? So cool. So things like that. And I think this, and here in the Hemocraft ability score, is super nice for the Blood Hunter because it also opens up some really nice together. Oh man, this morning with words. I better get my A game on to get ready for the one shot later. Synergy, that's the word. Really great synergy when it comes to multi-classing into different things, right? If you wanted to multi-class into a wizard or artificer, you can go with intelligence. If you wanted to multi-class into cleric or druid, you can use wisdom. And here it gives you the option to do that. Or even like monk, right? Using a wisdom modifier. And I really like that because you don't have to sacrifice one or the other when you do. And to me, I don't think breaks the game that much. But maybe you have another opinion, right? So, also, I should mention, if you do have a question that you would like me to answer, definitely put in the chat question in all caps so that I can kind of see it as the chat goes by. So after that, because I think that's a huge point of flavor for the Blood Hunter, we have what's next called is the Blood Maledict. Now, again, just as each class has a different thing that is kind of key to the class, or when the feature gives the main flavor of the class, like the Druid's Wild Shape, or the Sorcerer's Meta Magic, or the Rogue's Sneak Attack, the Blood Hunter mainly is its Blood Maledict. There's one other one, but mainly is the Blood Maledict, okay? So let's read it. You gain the ability to channel or sometimes sacrifice a part of your vital essence to curse and manipulate creatures through Hemocraft magic. Hemocraft magic or blood magic is sacrifice. It's sacrificial magic, meaning you have to take part of yourself in order to create a result, at least in lore. So you know one blood curse of your choice, detailed below. You learn additional blood curses of your choice at different levels. Each time you learn a new blood curse, you can also choose one blood curse you know and change it with another. Each time you use a blood maledict feature, you can choose which curse to invoke from the curses you know while invoking a blood curse, but before it affects the target, you can choose to amplify the curse by taking necrotic damage equal to one of your Hemocraft die. So you roll a die and you take more damage, pulling more of your essence to make it more powerful. This damage can't be reduced in any way. An amplified curse gains an additional effect noted in the curse's description. Creatures that do not have blood are immune to blood curses unless you have an amplified curse. So, we'll look at it again. But it's cool that it says that the damage can't be reduced in any way, so you can't cheat out of it and say like, oh, I'm resistant to necrotic, and so I hurt less because of those things. You can argue that might be narratively fulfilling, right? Being almost resistant to constantly pulling essence out of your body, but it doesn't do that here. And then it also says the creatures that do not have blood are immune to blood curses. There is one exception that we will also get to. But for some examples of some blood curses that are really, really nice, if we scroll down, these are flavorful because they kind of act like spells in a way. You can flavor them as spells, right? Just a magical effect or you can almost do maneuvers. I did do a whole video in my Better Class series about the Blood Hunter, and I think it was the Jinx. The Jinx, where a lot of what the curses did was more physical. And you could do it more like maneuvers anyways. But you just got to get creative with it. So a Blood Curse of the Anxious, bonus action, you harry the body or mind of the creature within 30 feet of you, making them susceptible to force influence or to forceful influence until the end of the turn. Charisma checks made against the cursed creature have advantage. The Binding, you can basically reduce the speed to 0, and it can't use reactions. Amplify is when you do more damage to yourself to increase it. Next, Wisdom saving throw the cursed creature makes before the end of the curse at disadvantage. This is great for a Wisdom saving throw spell that maybe another creature is going to cast before your next turn. This one, Amplified, it also increases to 1 minute and it affects the creature regardless of size. Creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turn, however. Blood Curse of the Agony causes its body to swell, and the creature has disadvantage on strength and dexterity checks and takes a d8 of necrotic damage every time that it tries to make more than one turn during its turn, or more than one attack during its turn. And this is incredible for that one creature that does like 6 attacks in one turn. They can take one attack, and then if they do all of their attacks, it's like 5d8 necrotic damage on their turn constantly, right? Because if you amplify it, curse lasts for 1 minute, which is pretty cool. Blood Curse of Corrosion. So there's also some prerequisites that are more powerful and specific to certain class or certain subclasses. This one has a bonus action and cause a creature of 30 feet of you to become poisoned. Cursed creature can make a Constitution saving throw at the end of its turns, ending the curse on a success. Amplify takes 4d6 necrotic damage when you inflict this curse, and it takes this damage again each time that it fails a Constitution saving throw to end the curse. Pretty cool. It's corrosion. It's a lot of necrotic damage if you like stack those things. Anyways, that's really cool. Which one's my favorite? Oh, this one's one of my favorites because I won't read all of these. You can obviously do that on your downtime. But this one's one of my favorite. Blood Curse of the Fallen Puppet. This is basically lifting someone up from the dead as soon as they're killed. They're using their blood. It's like blood bending to make them attack one more time. So when it drops to 0 hit points, you can use a reaction to instill within that creature a final act of regression. Creature immediately takes 1 weapon attack against the target of your choice. Amplify. You can cause the cursed creature to move up to half of its speed, and you grant a bonus to its attack roll equal to your ability, your Hemocraft modifier. So it can just imagine like your friend falling to the earth, basically, with its neck slit open. It getting back up in the same turn, rushing you limply, and attacking you. Scary as hell. So anyways, I like that crap. I like that crap. Okay. But this is really cool because this is an excellent... Blood curses are excellent ways of reflavoring. One, because there's so much custability here, right? You can choose any one of these. It's almost like a Warlock's invocations in a way, where you can take all of these and or pick and choose, and you also get extra ones or different ones for each of your subclasses. Put them together to make a new and unique creature altogether, right? One of our questions was, what if two people of the same subclass, do they look different? And the answer is they can be, really. If they choose different blood curses as well as different rites that we'll get into, they'll look very, very different. But I like these a lot because you can flavor them into different things. Okay, going on. The second one, Crimson Rite. This is the second one that kind of makes blood hunters. Because as you remember in the description, they said that they can basically harness elemental magic by the blood magic that they invoke. So you learn to invoke a Rite of Hemocraft that infuses your weapon strikes with elemental energy. As a bonus action, you may activate any rite you know with the one weapon that you are holding. The effect of the rite lasts until you finish a short or long rest. You can activate a rite. You take necrotic damage equal to one of your rolls of your Hemocraft die. This damage can't be reduced anyway. Now, it does say that you have to have a weapon that you're holding. Again, there is one exception in a subclass, but also, I I kind of bypass this in my own games. I think it's just kind of really cool. Like, let's say like you bite your knuckles, or like to do the damage that you need to, or you just kind of invoke your fists to have this elemental magic where it's like sparking with electricity, or it balls into a flame, or something like that, right? Because you get a choice of what elemental damages you can invoke. So while this right in effect, you can attack with this weapon. The attack that you make with this weapon are magical, and you deal extra damage equal to your Hemocraft die, to determined by the chosen right. So you can only have one weapon active at a time, and other creatures can't benefit from your right. So as soon as you let go of your sword, the right ends. But you have Right of the Flame that does fire damage, Right of the Frozen does cold, Lightning of the Storm, the Right of the Dead. So this is prerequisites later in levels. Again, I don't make this a prerequisite. You can just do this at the beginning. I think it's really cool, especially if you have an idea of a class, or sorry, a character concept that might require some of these. And again, I go over that in my Blood Hunter class video. But Right of the Dead gives you necrotic damage. Right of the Oracle gives you psychic damage. That one's really cool, because like either you're punching him with illusions, or you're frightening him so much when when you're hitting them. It's just a lot of flavor in that one. Or Right of the Roar, which is Right of the Thunder damage. And it would be really cool to also have other types, right? There's Radiant that isn't representative here. There's Poison or Acid. Any one of those would be really cool. And I think you actually do get those options in other subclasses as well. But these subclasses are so nicely flavored, in my opinion, that we will go over them as well. But this is awesome because it's almost Paladin-esque in a way, where it's almost like a constant smite that you put on your sword in just a small way. I almost joked around with some of my friends that this is almost a Paladin light, you know, because Paladins have spells and smites, right? Blood Hunters have curses and rights. Spells and smites, curses and rights. Right? And so in a way, it's almost like a fallen paladin. I love the flavor of a Blood Hunter that is a fallen paladin, right? Someone that lost their divine magic, but still had the practice of and still had the tendencies toward a certain type of skill set, and that just translated into curses and rights. Right? I think it's really cool as like a fallen paladin. All right. Other features really quick. Brass of Castigation is almost like their divine. Oh shoot, what's it called? They invoke a. Isn't it divine? It's a divine something. Hold on. We're gonna look at paladin real quick. Yeah, it would make a good god of the cursed paladin. It would make a god. Okay, so it's a. Which one is it? Which one am I thinking of? Okay, channel divinity. That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry, guys. It's almost like a channel divinity, the brand of castigation in a way. So when you damage a creature with a weapon for which you have an active Crimson Right, you channel Hemocraft magic to sear a arcane brand into that creature. No action required. It's just as you attack. You always know the direction of the creature, as long as they're on the same plane as you. Further, each time the branded creature deals damage to you, the branded creature takes psychic damage equal to your Hemocraft. Your brand lasts until you dismiss it, or until you use this feature to apply a brand to another creature. Your brand can be dispelled with Dispel Magic, and is treated with a spell with a level equal to half your Blood Hunter level. You can use this again after you finish a short or long rest. So cool, right? So cool. So it's leaving a brand, or a searing hot brand into the blood, or into the skin of those that you smite, or you deal right damage to. Cool. And each of the subclasses also get an extra feature on top of this, that as they use this brand of castigation, as they brand them, it does an extra thing. Pretty cool. You also have Grim Psychometry. You gain supernatural talent for discerning the secrets around mysterious relics or places touched by evil. Again, dealing into the hunting of monsters kind of feel. When you make an intelligence history check to recall information about the sinister or tragic history of an object you are touching or your current location, you have an advantage on the check. At the DM's discretion, suitably high roll may cause your character to experience brief visions of the past connected to the object or location. DMs, please play this up. Please play this up. This is so good. It's such a flavorful thing. It's almost like a legend lore kind of put into this creature or this class. And they're hunters, and they're mystical beings that are in touch with other planar monstrous things. And so even when they touch objects, they can sniff it out. They can sniff things out a little bit better. Then we have at level 10, Dark Augmentation. The magic of Hemocraft suffuses your body with a permanently reinforce your resilience. Your speed increases by 5 feet, so you have a bonus to strength, dexterity, constitution saving throws equal to your Hemocraft modifier. That's incredible. So again, a little bit Paladin-esque. You can kind of see where I'm coming from. Which to me is almost a penalty in flavor in a way because it's so close, but it's taking it to an nth degree that you could argue either way. So after, and I'm sorry if I'm going pretty fast, guys, but I'm trying to get through everything that I want to get through. So again, questions if you have questions. Brand of Tethering. At 13th level, you get another brand. Psychic damage from your Brand of Castigation. So there's an increase of that brand that we got earlier. So it increases to twice your Hemocraft modifier. So you deal additional damage. A branded creature can't take the dash action if it attempts to teleport or leave its current plane by any means. It takes 4d6 psychic damage and must make a wisdom saving throw. On a failure, the attempt to teleport or leave fails. Pretty cool. So basically, it's like, this monster, you aren't going anywhere. I'm going to get you, right? It's anchoring them down so they can't leave to another plane or they can't teleport away. They are hunters and they're good at it. Heart and Soul. Level 14, you have advantage on saving throws against being charmed and frightened. That's really good. It's at level 14. It's a little far away. When I played a Blood Hunter, I wish I got that a lot sooner. But it was really fun because I actually played up her being frightened of things in a really roleplay way. She was very scarred and hurt by other monsters and creatures, and so she fought a lot with herself and the path that she took, which was really fun. Okay, level 20, Sanguine Mastery, your capstone. Your mastery of blood magic reaches its height, mitigating your sacrifice and empowering your expertise. Once per turn, whenever a Blood Hunter feature requires you to roll a Hemocraft die, you can re-roll the die and use the other roll, meaning that you'll probably take less damage when you make rolls. It's a small feature. There might be some better things that you can do as a capstone, but hey, it's nice to do just a little bit less damage when you roll to pull your essence. Additionally, when you score a critical hit with a weapon, for which you have an active, when you have an active Crimson Rite, you regain 1 expended use of your Blood Maledict feature. So that being your curses. So that's really nice, getting an extra curse whenever you hit a critical hit. It's almost like drawing blood from your enemy and pulling that essence for an extra curse feature, which I think is really cool. So now, real quick, because I know that a couple of you are talking in the chat, and I think that a couple of you have been going on about different things that you can reflavor self-harm to be, because self-harm is a thing, right? Self-harm is something that a lot of people are careful of. Self-harm is something that a lot of people are wary at their table and always address in session 0. I agree with that. Always address this in session 0. If there's something that a creature, or I'm calling players creatures now. Goodness. Oh, I did not sleep a lot last night. Okay. A player, you should always leave it open for a player to bring this up if it's something that they struggle with, right? If it's something that they want to do better or to just avoid altogether, they might have experienced it in the past, they may deal with it themselves currently. And if it's something that you just want to touch on, that's fine. You can still play a Blood Hunter, however. Now, there is an argument that I've talked about before, is like, why are we okay or not okay with self-harm, and then why are we okay with harming others when it comes to D&D, right? That's what D&D is. It's harming other people. It's fighting, it's killing, it's murdering in some cases. So why is it okay to not, or why is it not okay to bring self-harm and it's okay to harm others? So it's just, and to that I say it's all about intent, right? It's all about intent. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Why are you killing in D&D? Hopefully you're doing it to, like, for the betterment of society, for helping other people, to rid the evil of the world, to make it better, right? That's kind of, you're the heroes, right? And in often cases, right, it's provoked, right? They attack you first, or, you know, it's either you kill them or they do worse things to you, etc. But self-harm can be looked at the same way, right? You can do self-harm in the essence, or in the way that we kind of view it now, which is self-damaging, self-punishing, and that's why they do it psychologically. Where the blood hunter, I don't feel is that at all. They're not doing it to punish themselves. They're doing it, again, to help other people. They're doing it to increase their power in order to be effective, to rid the world of evil, to rid the world of those things. So almost the same reason that they're killing things, they're kind of harming themselves in order to do those things. So in my mind, I don't see them as one and the same. But again, I am always mindful, and I will always be willing to get rid of those kind of aspects if it makes someone uncomfortable at the table, right? But I think it's important to think about those things and how we view them. So that said, and yes, evil campaigns for sure. Like evil campaigns, a lot of people kill without reason, and that's just what it is, right? And people are fine with that. People are fine with that. So again, it depends on why you're playing, what you're doing, and what you feel comfortable with. Other ways you can do blood magic. Again, it doesn't have to be cutting yourself. It could be pulling from your soul. It could be using your essence in that way. It could be psychic damage, right? Where it is psychological, but instead of you harming yourself, you could be a pacifist, where every time you harm something, you take damage because you're going against everything that you believe in, right? So it's almost drawing your power. And again, hit points does not have to be health or how much damage you can take. It's also stamina. It's also a way to explain your consciousness, your willingness to keep going, your ability to move, to fight. Because when you're at 0 hit points, you don't have to be like unconscious, like out for the count, but you could just be incapacitated, which means like you could barely like flutter your eyes open. You can see what's kind of going on. You know what's going on. You can say things in like hushed tones, and maybe even like crawl super, super slowly, right, to try to get to a place. And if somebody asked me at my table, if like, oh, I'm incapacitated, can I move like 5 feet per round towards an object, that like a magic item that I need to activate, I'm like, ooh, that's so cool. And you better hope that you're healed by the time that you get to that, because who knows if you're going to be able to activate it at your current state. So that thing is just kind of really cool. Let's see, other ways that you can reflavor the blood hunter, blood curses, self-harm thing. Obviously, it's if you don't want to do damage at all, you could also just take away a what's it called? A hit dice. So instead of just them doing damage to themselves in the moment, I've also kind of experimented with at the table just getting rid of a hit dice that you can use for short rests. So instead of hurting you, it's taking away healing, if that makes sense. So you have a certain number of hit dice, and that hit dice you can use on a short rest to heal yourself. And so whenever you use a hit dice, you have a few less hit dice that you can use to heal yourself later. So it's almost kind of, again, pulling from a resource pool that represents health in a way. And I think that actually Matthew Mercer did this, or changed it to this, when it came to hemomancy, or the blood spellcasting in the wizard and cleric classes in the Tal'Dorei Reborn. So they're taking from the hit dice instead of that. And I think that would be the easiest and most effective fix, because that way you can really flavor it as anything, because you're not self-harming in the moment or taking harm away from you into somebody else, or to invoke power to affect somebody else. So hopefully those few things, again, I don't want to take too long on this, but I hope that's a few things that kind of get your mind going on what new things you can do with flavoring that. And again, you can watch my video, and I'm sure there's been lots of comments here and there to help with that, because there are ways. And again, that just kind of goes to show it's hard to flavor it. It's hard because the mechanic is very obvious in the class, but it isn't impossible to kind of change out to either reflavor or homebrew. Okay, so let's go back into our classes. Again, just wanted to show you guys some fun things that each one can do. So one awesome thing about the class, or the Blood Hunter class, is, again, it creates a new element or archetype that wasn't there before. It's very much a gothic fantasy, right? Where normally all the classes are more high fantasy, this one's the first gothic fantasy. We're talking ghosts, vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein, those kind of noirs, right? Where it's the Haunted Mansion type aesthetic, yeah? Curse of Strahd kind of aesthetic. And so each of these are a portion of each of those. And so Order of the Ghost Slayer is more of the ghost race and wisps and things like that. That's kind of that genre where you can take the Blood Hunter. And they have really cool. So Rite of the Dawn actually gives them the Rite of the Dawn, which is a... where does it say? Radiant damage. So this gives you a radiant damage that you can invoke in your sword. Love this. Love this. Also gives you like some light that you can cast and everything. Aether Walk. You can move through the the ethereal plane, which is super cool. But again, one thing that I wanted to show you was the Brand of Sundering, which is the Brand of Castigation addition, right? All of these subclasses get additions to the Brand of Castigation. So when you give the brand, it exposes a fragment of your foe's essence, leaving them vulnerable to your Crimson Rite feature, dealing extra damage with the Rite. Additionally, if the branded creature has the incorporeal movement trait or similar feature, it can't move through objects or creatures while branded. So if you hit a ghost with this feature, it basically cannot possess people, which is a really nice mechanic for a ghost hunter, blood hunter. And that's what these are. Because, I can't remember where it says it, but I believe that this can they can use their rights on creatures without blood. Yeah, so in addition, your blood curses can target any creature, whether it has blood or not. So your blood curses work on ghosts and zombie or skeletons and things like that wouldn't normally have blood. So very much undead creatures. This is your undead hunter right here. Okay, then next we have the Order of the Lycan. This is your werewolf that you can be, literally turning into a werewolf, right? So you have a hybrid transformation. This is you have your feral might, your advantage on strength and strength checks and strength saving throws. This is while you're transformed. Resilient hide, you have additional AC. Predatory attacks. This is where the exception where your unarmed strikes, where you can have your fists or hands become your weapon and invoke these with your rights. Now it would be really cool again to reflavor this and not be a werewolf. You could just be some other transformation, some Hulk out feature. It could just be a rage, right? You could even multi-class this with Barbarian, and you just get these features as a rage, right? And just flavor it that way. What they get with a brand, an extra brand, is brand of the Voracious. That's a really cool word. And they give you advantage on saving throws for your Bloodlust while in hybrid form. Oh, which one was the Bloodlust? Oh yeah, Bloodlust. That's true. Whenever you have the Bloodlust is when you have fewer hit points than half your hit point maximum. You may attack other things, so just be wary of that. But this gives you advantage on saving throws while in that form. additionally, your Brand of Castigation can now bind a foe to your hunter's ferocity. While in your hybrid form, you have advantage on attack rolls against a creature branded by you. That's incredible. Advantage all the time against a creature that you brand. Awesome. Order of the Mutant. This is your witch hunter, right? It's taking vials and different kinds of elixirs to boost your power. But there are effects and side effects. There are formulas that you get. So there are mutagens, and I won't go through all of them. But one gives you a flying speed for 1 hour. However, you have disadvantage on strength and ability checks during this time. Okay. Conversant, you have advantage on intelligence checks. However, you have disadvantage on wisdom checks. You know, simple things like that. Embers, you have resistance to fire damage, vulnerability to cold damage. Pretty cool. So as long as you're like planning these things out, you won't see a lot of the disadvantages. Potency, your strength score increases by 3 during, as does your maximum for that score. However, your disadvantage on dexterity saving throws. Your strength score and maximum increase by 4 if you consume this mutagen at 11th level, and 5 by 18th level. So that's cool. Some of them grow as you go. Last one, you shielded. You have resistance to slashing damage, but vulnerability to bludgeoning damage. That one's pretty unique, but you kind of get what I'm saying. So it's a really, really cool feature. Blood Curse of Corrosion is the curse that you, or the, sorry, is that it? No, Brand of Axiom. This is where the increased castigation is. So any illusion or invisibility in effect on a creature when you brand it ends. So if something is illusion, or they're creating illusion, or they're invisible, it just ends when you brand them. Creature can't benefit from this while branded by you as well. So they can't turn invisible, nor they can't cast illusion magic, I think. Any illusion effect on it's on a creature. So they can cast it, but as long as it's on them, it is dispelled. If a creature branded by you is in an alternate form, by way of the polymorph spell, or change shape, changer shape, or trait, or a wild shape feature or similar effects, it must take a wisdom saving throw to revert to its true form and be stunned until the end of your turn, or next turn. Whenever a branded creature attempts to alter its form, it must succeed at a wisdom saving throw, and the same thing happens. So this is almost your druid killer. Is this the Order of the Mutant? It is your druid killer, and they will tear your druid apart with this, because again, especially higher level druids, when they kind of depend on a constant spell or a constant shape change, it can be pretty bad for them. Okay, last one, the Order of the Profane Soul. So this one is more just your general warlock blood hunter. So it takes on a lot of elements of the warlock. This is getting your blood magic from a patron instead of anything else. Again, it evokes still that haunted mansion gothic fantasy, but in a different way. So it's almost like a warlock light in the way. So you still get pack magic, and basically what happens is you pick your patron. So you have all of the patron subclasses here, all of them, and you pick a patron subclass from the Warlock. So the Archfey is a Warlock subclass, the Celestial is a Warlock subclass, the Fathomless is a Warlock subclass. So, and he's actually recently updated them with the Genie and the Undying. But you choose one of your patrons and you get a feature that comes with it. So like a Celestial, as a bonus action, when you expend one of your blood magic feature to heal one creature, you can see within 60 feet of you. Creature gains a number of hit points equal to a roll of your Hemocraft die plus your Hemocraft modifier. So that's cool, a little blood magic healing. And then the Undying, when you reduce a hostile creature of at least one mild threat to 0 hit points, you regain a number of hit points equal to one roll of your Hemocraft die. And then the Genie. As a bonus action, you can spend one blood magic feature to give yourself a flying speed of 30 feet, which lasts for a number of rounds equal to your Hemocraft modifier. That's pretty cool. That's pretty nice. And then you also get extra, and then each like at level 7 and level 15, you get extra spells that you can use for each of these subclasses. And then here's your brand. Brand of Castigation feature digs dark arcane scars into your target, leaving them vulnerable to magic. A creature branded by you has disadvantage on saving throws against your warlock spells. That's nice. That's really nice. So they have disadvantage, meaning that your spells can really, you have more confidence that they'll land on a creature, right? So real quick, let's talk about, as I pull something else up, let's talk about the difference or things that may be missing, right? Things that might be missing to the Blood Hunter aesthetic, right? We've already talked about a oops, there we go. We've talked about a the werewolf, a vampire. We still do not have a representation for a vampire on a Blood Hunter. It'd be really, really cool to have one, right? A vampire-esque where you're biting or pulling essences from for other things. You also, you have the race, which is the Dampier, but it'd really be cool to expand that into almost a warrior vampire, which I would love to see. And other people have done homebrews and things like that, right? There's also the witch. A witch Blood Hunter would also be really cool. So like having hag-like powers. Yeah. Having hag-like powers. And then with these, or with the hag-like powers, you it can be more like hexes instead of curses, I guess you could say. Yeah. And then we also have I thought of an alien when I looked up like gothic horror or gothic stuff. Oh, I'm skipping out again. Darn it. Yeah, when I looked up gothic horror or gothic stuff, Alien came up, which at first I'm like, well, that's not right. But then I thought like, oh, well, maybe it would be interesting. Maybe it would be interesting to have like an alien-esque Blood Hunter. I don't know. Pretty cool. So anyways, there's one other thing that I want to show you guys, and hopefully it's a little blurry since it's kind of zoomed in, but I cannot access. Let's see here. Can I access this other thing? No, that's okay. All right, I'm just gonna show you guys because there is another one. So a Frankenstein. So we also have the Frankenstein subclass, but I also got this Frankenstein done on my website. So I'm gonna pull up my website. I made a Blood Hunter Order of the Stitcher subclass, and it's free if you want it on my website. It's right here. But I wanted to make it. I had some good ideas for it, and I love the idea of a Blood Hunter with a companion or a Frankenstein's monster that you can deal with, right? So we'll kind of look at what this kind of has, and maybe it'll give you some ideas from your own homebrew. So I'm going to zoom in here, if it'll let me. There we go. So Lifeblood, you create a fleshy companion. This is the corpse that you get. The corpse, it has like an Icarus Fortitude, which is kind of like undead fortitude. Drops to 0 or drops to 1 hit point instead of 0. And then later on, you get the monster. Oh, sorry, Advanced Hematology. This also acts as like a healing subclass as well. You learn to drain the blood in a controlled manner to cure blood-related illnesses. As an action, you can expend 3 of your hit die to heal yourself or a creature within 5 feet of you of all poisons and diseases. Or transfusions, you can learn to give your own life essence. As a bonus action, you can expend 1 roll of your hit die to heal a creature within 30 feet. The creature regains hit points equal to the number rolled plus your Constitution modifier. So I'm implementing some of what I've talked about using your hit dice instead of Hemocraft die at the same time, right? So you're using some of that kind of essence or that kind of that pool of resource in order to heal your companions. Monster. As an action, you can see through the corpse's eyes and hear what it hears until the end of its next turn, seeing only shades of red. During this time, you are deaf and blinded in regard to your own senses. And you also can invoke blood curses through a corpse as if it were invoking them. So you can have your corpse basically give out the blood magic from their position instead of your position, which on the battlefield can work really, really well. Corpse can use its action to invoke blood rights on their strikes, meaning that they can, like the blood rights that you use on your sword, invoking like a fire or thunder damage, they can do that on their strikes as well. Brand of the Dead. So this is the brand that you get, again, increase of the brand of castigation. You cause a dread to overwhelm the creature once per turn. Whenever the branded creature takes damage from your blood rights, either you or from your corpse, creature must succeed a charisma saving throw or become frightened of you. Both you and your corpse companion until the end of your next turn. In addition, the branded creature cannot heal by magical means. Again, it's the healing part. It's this blood hunter. It has kind of the sway over life and death in a way. So I think it's pretty cool. And then in Sanguine Summons, you can cast a Create Undead spell, which increases to allow you to create a Flesh Golem. So you can have more than one, basically, corpse companions on your side. And then Xenograph, you have Mastered Blood Infusions and Skin Grafts. You can spend an action to reduce your corpse down to 0 hit points. If the corpse had more than half its hit points remaining, you can cast them to cast a Revivify spell with no material components as part of the same action. You cannot revive or create a new corpse companion until after you finish a long rest. So it's just kind of fun. Again, wanted to show you guys. It's just a lot of things that you can do with the Blood Hunter that can't do otherwise. So that's why I really like it. Now, the question is it good for the Ludo narrative? I will say this thing is, while barbarians and clerics and wizards are very, very prevalent in fantasy and in fantasy and in media and in video games and things like that, very recognizable tropes. Very recognizable. The Blood Hunter is not. There's not a lot of it in media. There's not a lot of things that are like this specifically. And it's very, very niche. I will say that this could just be a ranger subclass. To be perfectly fair, this could just be a ranger subclass. Where a ranger, it's because it's the same hunter aesthetic, right? Where rangers are basically hunters of the wild that gets rid of monstrous creatures. The Blood Hunter is very similar in that way. And so it would just be a ranger with the ability to invoke rights or curses in that subclass. Now, that said, with the Blood Hunter that we have now, obviously it's really cool that we have things that invoke, like, or help with ghosts, or help with vampires, or werewolves, and or more like witchery and that kind of stuff. So it's really cool that we get to see like an expandedness of that. But there's also the question is that if we wanted classes that are kind of akin to monsters, would it be better in other ways, right? And these are just questions that you can kind of think about. But now kind of coming in at the end of this, real quick, let's look at the tier list. Because again, then I got to go and be on the one-shot. So what do you guys think? Oh, and sorry, I just saw your question, Philip. How do you think about, or what do you think about a Slod-based Blood Hunter? That would be really interesting. That would be really, really interesting. A Slod-based Blood Hunter. I would love to see something like that. As Slods don't invoke a gothic fantasy to me, but I would be very interested to see how that would work anyways. I would love that. I could also see I could also see like a Mind Flayer Blood Hunter, maybe something like that. Due to like infections and transformations like the Ceramorphosis. That to me is a little bit more gothic fantasy, but I guess Slods basically do the same thing. And but Slods are aliens, and I said aliens. So there you go. Now I'm just talking in circles. So yeah, like an alien aesthetic with Slods, that could work for sure. I would love to see both a Slod and a Mind Flayer Blood Hunter subclass. That'd be dope. Somebody do that, because I have no time. maybe in a little bit. Okay. S tier features our complete synergy with the class narrative, a key class for reflavor, including multiple avenues for customization. A strong feature that promotes creativity with the right brainstorming a lot as possible. Offers decent reflavoring options and provides good narrative, though only for specific instances. C, some Ludo narrative is present. Reflavoring is possible, but specific features make it very difficult. Or D, features seldom work with the narrative of the class. They are limiting and leaves little room for reflavoring. So what do you guys think? I will be biased. I promise you, I will be biased. I do think that this, compared to a lot of other things, is pretty high up there. And it introduces a new feature that isn't, or a new aesthetic, a new archetype that isn't well represented elsewhere. I would personally give it a low S or high A. Last week we gave in aid to the fighter. I think it was a little high. Looking back, I think it was a little high for that. But the Blood Hunter to me is a lot more flavorful as far as like the options and the customizability and different things that you have there. So low S, high A. What do you guys think? Right? So if you agree with that, awesome. Then we don't need to talk about it or discuss it any further. But I hope that this was kind of, in a way, this was almost like a Blood Hunter exploration for people who just didn't know about Blood Hunter. And they can just watch this and say like, oh, that's what the kind of things do. And that's how things match up. And that's what it does. That's how it feels, which is totally cool too. So after this, I will be on, again, like I said, a one-shot, a modern aesthetic, or a one-shot set in the modern day, over on Hidden Nerdy Side's channel. And I'm going to see if I'm going to be able to pull this over to that, like the raid system that they have. But I don't think that that Hidden Nerdy Side has gone live yet with that. I don't think so. So unfortunately, I don't think it'll do so. Let's double check, because that would be fun, right? That would be kind of fun. Nope, he doesn't have it up. I told him, I reminded him, like, hey, have it up so I can raid everybody, or live redirect. Nobody's gonna use that word. Live redirect is too long of a sentence. We're gonna just call it raids. Anyways, thank you guys so much for coming. Thank you guys for sticking in there. I know that it's been kind of jumpy at least for me, but I haven't seen you guys complain about it at all, so I really appreciate it. But anyways, like the video, help it get around, subscribe if you haven't already, and in the meantime, go out there and spread the good word of D&D and make the world a better place, both on and off the table. See you guys in the one shot.